Welcome to The Explainer. We're the show that breaks down, well, pretty much any big topic into something you can actually use.
All right, so let's jump right in. We're going to talk about a huge health trend that's all about this exact question, 16-8 intermittent fasting. We'll get into how it works, what the supposed benefits are, and, yeah, a surprising new risk that's just popped up. So what is it really? It's not your typical diet where you're counting every single calorie. Nope, this is all about timing. It's basically a pattern, right? You create this cycle of eating and then fasting. The idea is to just stretch out that natural fast we all do overnight while we're sleeping. The theory is that this lines up way better with our body's internal clock, our circadian rhythm.
So how does this actually work inside your body? Well, when you eat, especially carbs, your insulin levels shoot up to handle all that incoming energy. But when you fast, the opposite happens. Insulin levels take a nosedive, and that drop, it's like flipping a switch. It's a signal to your body to stop storing fuel and start burning the energy it's already got saved up. That's what people call the metabolic switch.
I love this analogy. It makes it so clear. Think about your body's energy like it's a kitchen. The easy-to-get energy, the glucose, that's like the food in your refrigerator. It's right there, super accessible, but you can't fit a whole lot in there, right? Now your stored body fat, that's the giant deep freezer you've got down in the basement. It's got an almost unlimited supply of energy, but it's a bit more work to get to. So fasting, it's basically what convinces your body to finally go downstairs and start using up all that good stuff from the deep freeze.
Okay, so what's the big deal? Why is everyone talking about this? Well, the appeal really comes down to a bunch of potential short-term benefits that researchers have been looking into.
Yeah, some studies have pointed to some pretty cool potential outcomes. The one you hear about most is, of course, weight and fat loss. I mean, it kind of makes sense. If you have a smaller window to eat, you might just naturally eat fewer calories. But it goes deeper than that. Some research suggests it could improve how your body handles insulin, lead to better heart health markers, and even kickstart this really cool cellular cleanup process. It's called autophagy, where your body literally gets rid of old, junky cells to make room for new ones. Plus, for a lot of people, just watching the clock is way easier than counting every single calorie.
All right, that all sounds pretty good in theory, right? But what does it actually look like day to day? Let's get practical.
The absolute key here is flexibility. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. You get to pick the 8-hour window that actually works for your schedule. Are you an early bird? Maybe you eat from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Do you work late or love having dinner with your family? Then maybe a noon to 8 p.m. window is your sweet spot. There's no single correct way to do it. It's all about finding a rhythm you can actually stick with.
Now, just because your eating window is shorter, that does not mean you can just eat whatever you want. In fact, what you eat becomes even more important. During those 8 hours, you really want to focus on foods that are packed with nutrients. Think lean protein, think fiber. These are going to be your best friends. Why? Because they help you feel full and satisfied, which is, pretty crucial for getting through the next 16 hours of fasting.
So what about those other 16 hours, the fasting part? The big rule here is basically 0 calories. Water is your number one go-to, obviously, but things like black coffee or unsweetened tea are generally okay for most people. The caffeine can even help take the edge off your appetite. The whole point is to stay hydrated without waking up that insulin response we were talking about earlier.
But look, it's not always easy peasy. There are some really common mistakes that can totally sabotage your efforts and, frankly, just make you feel awful. Okay, this is a big one. Probably the number one mistake people make is forgetting about hydration and electrolytes. See, when your insulin levels drop, your kidneys start flushing out more sodium and water. If you don't replace those essential minerals, we're talking sodium, potassium, magnesium, you're gonna feel it. Headaches, feeling tired, muscle cramps. A lot of the time, it's not even the hunger that gets people, it's the side effects of being dehydrated. And there are a few other common trip-ups. You see people who use their 8-hour window as a free-for-all to eat junk food, which, yeah, that kind of defeats the whole purpose. Or people who jump straight from eating normally to a 16-hour fast and just feel terrible. The better way is to ease into it over a few days. The main thing is you've got to listen to your body and stay flexible.
And this brings us to a really, really important part of the story. While we have some info on the short-term stuff, the long-term picture, that's been a lot fuzzier. And a brand new preliminary study just threw a massive question mark into the whole conversation.
This is the study that made a lot of headlines recently, so it's really important we unpack this carefully.
So here it is, the big, scary number, 91%.
In a study looking at over 20,000 adults in the US, researchers found that the people who squeezed all their eating into an 8-hour window had a 91% higher risk of death from cardiovascular disease. That's compared to people who ate over a more standard 12 to 16 hours. I mean, that is a shocking number, and it definitely makes you stop and think.
But, and this is a huge but, here is the most critical piece of context, and it comes straight from the study's lead author. They said, look, we found an association, a link. This does not mean that time-restricted eating caused cardiovascular death. And in science, that difference between correlation and causation is, well, it's everything.
And you know what? There are some pretty big reasons to be cautious here. First off, this research is still preliminary. That means it hasn't been through the full, rigorous peer review process yet. It was also based on people reporting what they ate for just 2 days, and we all know how unreliable that can be. We have no idea what they were eating in their 8-hour window. Was it healthy? Was it junk? We also don't know about other things like exercise or stress levels. Pretty much every outside expert has pointed to these limitations as huge reasons to take these findings with a big grain of salt.
Okay, so where does that leave us? We've got these potential short-term benefits on one side and this new, very preliminary long-term risk on the other. How do we put all of this together? What's the real takeaway here?
The bottom line is, this is not some kind of magic bullet. Just like pretty much any eating plan, what works wonders for one person might do nothing or even be harmful for someone else. It is absolutely not for everybody. And in fact, health experts are super clear that certain groups of people should just steer clear of intermittent fasting completely. We're talking about women who are pregnant, breastfeeding, or trying to conceive, anyone with a history of eating disorders, people with specific medical conditions like type 1 diabetes or low blood pressure, and anyone on medication that has to be taken with food. And that really brings us to the single most important piece of advice you'll hear from pretty much any credible source on this. Before you make any significant change to your diet, whether it's what you eat or when you eat, you really need to talk to a doctor or a registered dietitian. They're the only ones who can help you weigh the potential pros and cons for your own personal health situation.
So, is it a short-term trend or a long-term risk? The truth is, the science is still very much a work in progress, especially when we talk about the long-term effects. This debate between it being a useful tool for some or a potential risk for others, it's happening right now. And that just makes it all the more important to ask this question, not to the internet, but to a professional who actually knows you and your health.